I'm now going to talk about old age poverty. In general, older people are disproportionately represented amongst the chronically poor. It is estimated that less than 20% of older people in the world are currently covered by pensions, which suggests that the majority of older people will not have an income in old age. Already 2/3 of the world's older people live in developing countries. By 2050, 20% of the world's population will be over 60. In low-income countries in sub-Saharan Africa, this is a region that I've been working on, the poverty situation of older people and their households is much higher than the national average. This has particularly been exacerbated by HIV, where older people care for millions of orphans and vulnerable children. In some African countries, around 40 to 60% of vulnerable children are dependent on older people to meet their food, health and education needs. In this vital role for caring, older people are essential for breaking the cycle of poverty in their families. But in their role as carers, this can have a negative impact on older people as it will affect their food consumption. For example, older people in Western Kenya, which is an area that's been affected by HIV prevalence greatly, older people reported that their harvest yields was much lower than usual, and also their food consumption was much lower due to their conflicting priorities of older people for caring for children and also trying to cultivate a living. So social pensions are an effective way of reducing poverty. And this has been my main role. I've been advocating and analysing the impact of social pensions in Africa. In particular, universal social pensions have had and transformed people's lives in Lesotho, Botswana, Nepal, Bolivia and South Africa. Social pensions restore dignity to older people, and they also give them a higher quality of life in their later years. A social pension recognises the contribution that older people have made to their households, their community, and also at a national level for the work they've done for their life. In sub-Saharan Africa, the region I've been working on, older people only represent a small proportion of the population, and this could be around 5 to 6%. However, older people are present in nearly a quarter of households in some instances, which makes a pension an effective mechanism for reaching the poorest households of an African country. Social pensions reduce poverty among older people, but also their families, and particularly they have a very strong impact on households with older people and children. The advantage of a pension is that the impact is immediate. There is a day after impact, and it can immediately lift someone out of poverty by increasing their income. However, pensions also have a dynamic impact on economic growth and human development. International evidence shows that social pensions promote risk-taking, investing in productive activities, it promotes education, it promotes health, and also eases the pain of economic transition in the labour market. There's been evidence in Namibia and South Africa, for instance, that the pension stimulates the local economy, and many businesses open up on Pensions Day. And also there's evidence that pensions promote financial inclusion. When a pension is given to a rural area, banks provide saving products not only for beneficiaries, but they also provide them for the wider community. Also, pensions promote children's education and nutrition. Children that live in houses with older people that receive a social pension are more likely to go to school, and that's also particularly true for girls, which is important because they tend to have lower rates of school attendance during their teenage years. Findings in South Africa and Brazil showed that households that were in receipt of a pension that the children were free to buy centimetres taller. This is due to the extra food and nutrition that those children are able to get due to their pension. Social pensions also been shown to increase social cohesion in countries such as Mauritius and South Africa and Botswana, which is really important for promoting investment. A universal pension in Kenya could potentially reduce the national poverty rate by 4% and holds great promise that no one in Kenya will face poverty in old age. The main debate about social pensions is that there's a trade-off between economic growth and expenditure on cash transfers such as social pensions, child benefit, disability benefit. And there's often the concern that spending money on social protection means that there'll be less economic growth due to the increases of government expenditure. People also believe that it will create a budget constraint that is unaffordable. However, costings show that universal pensions only cost between 1 to 2% of GDP. In Africa, this is comparable to healthcare expenditure, which is often 3 times more expensive, or education expenditure, which is often 2 times more expensive. These are all important forms of social expenditure, and they should be equally as important as each other. One final point is that civil service pensions, which can be non-contributory in Africa, also cost 1% of GDP in some cases. And this only gives a small entitlement to a very small minority of the population, around 1 to 2%, whereas a universal pension gives an entitlement to everyone. To ensure that a pension is sustainable in the long run and government-driven, the main principle for financing a social pension is through general taxation. Donors can also play an important role in financing a pension by making sure resources are available for the setup costs and administration costs. How it's important that donors provide an exit strategy to any resources and external financing they give, and also have a strategy for progressive government ownership of such schemes. Finally, I'd just like to thank everyone that I've worked with during my time at HelpAge International. It's been a really interesting and fulfilling year, and I just look forward to hearing more about the work HelpAge does for improving the lives of older people.